Dr. H. Wainhouse is the Distinguished Research Professor of Theology, Law, Culture, and Archaeology at Faith International University and Seminary in Tacoma, Washington. He and his wife, Irina, have taught and directed many tours in the Mediterranean and Middle East, including Israel, Greece, Egypt, Jordan, Italy, and Turkey, particularly with the Biblical Archaeological Society. Dr. House has taught biblical and theological studies at several universities and seminaries during a teaching career of over 50 years and has written 150 articles and 50 books, including the Evangelical Dictionary of World Religions, The Jesus Who Never Lived, Exposing False Christs and Finding the Real Jesus, the Zondervan Handbook of Biblical Archaeology, Israel, the Land and the People, an Evangelical Affirmation of God's Promises. And editor of the Nelson NKJV Study Bible and Nelson New Illustrated Bible Commentary. Dr. House is the general editor of the Evangelical Exegetical Commentary Series, 44 volumes, with logos, Faith Life. It is the knowledge amassed from these experiences, along with the assistance of biblical scholars at a variety of universities and seminaries throughout the world, that provides the information contained in his latest project, the House Visual Study Bible Online. Thank you for joining Archaeology in the Lands of the Bible with Dr. H. Wainhouse.
And here we go. We're off and running. Dr. House is in the house. And we have one of our favorite kibitzers here, Dr. Donald Williams. So we know that there are two doctors in the house, just in case anyone needs a tune-up, a check, a health check on your theology. We're set. We got them here.
By the way, I give away doctorates for a price.
Oh,
if you need one. Okay.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, and we're not just physicians; we're real doctors.
That's right.
Because of course, doctor is a Latin word which means teacher.
That's
doctor
true.
is someone who does doctrine.
Oh.
And so guys with an MD, they're not really doctors.
No.
Etymologically, they're just physicians. So.
I'm glad we cleared that up now. See, so
we could actually go on strike on that one then, and just not go through them.
For sure.
Well, we could
in no time.
We could spend like 15 minutes just doing puns on stuff. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, there's so much to talk about in archaeology, and so I'm trying to figure out how to divide it up in such a way as to differentiate certain issues, same time, different time periods. We're going to go to do a lot of different things down the way. We'll actually go in to look at museum items. I went twice inside the Israel Museum with crews, where we did videos and photos, and even into the Shrine of the Book and all these places. I went to about 25 different museums throughout Europe and the Mediterranean, and I went to the 3 in Berlin and so forth,
nice.
Taking pictures of things and trying to bring materials that can be used. And of course, I'm putting all those things into my study Bible right now.
Cool.
And those will be coming out before long. And so if you haven't got the House Visual Study Bible, it's very simple to get anymore. It's just HVSB, that's easy. House Visual Study Bible, HVSB.app, APP. It's not a com, it's a doc. If you get a com, you get a bank. That's what happens. Honest to goodness, I've tried it. It goes and takes me to a bank. What have I got to do with that bank? But anyway, HVSB.app, and that will get you to the Study Bible. And the new website is also very simple. It's simply HW House Wayne, Herschel Wayne House. I don't go by Herschel, but hwhouse.com. That will take you to the new website. And we're going to be doing a lot more things for those listening. We're going to be going to YouTubes with all sorts of classes and talks on archaeology and theology and biblical studies and everything under the sun. And I already have 2 people working on funds. I'm hoping to be able to start going international. So, keep those things in thought and send me a check.
And there it is, folks.
Okay, and with that, we are off and running.
We sure are.
By the way, most of that stuff is in the description at the bottom there. So, where do we start? Well, we could do this. Oh yeah, there he is. But I bet we need to do this first.
Yeah.
That looks good. Yeah.
Okay.
Archaeology and unfamiliar biblical sites in Turkey. Remember, we've been going through what so far? I like to test you and see if you're learning. What have we been doing for the last couple of times or so?
Let me look at the past videos.
Well, everything we saw, my mind's just a little dusty, I think. From,
From all the rocks.
Yeah, we talked about 7 different areas.
Philadelphia.
They call it the 7 churches of Asia. You realize when they say that in Turkey, they do not mean that there are 7 church buildings that were in Asia.
Right. Right.
There were 7 Christian congregations, throughout Asia, and it kept growing and growing and growing with a ministry of a lot of people whose names and we'll say some things about that later. But Asia was a major place that the Christian gospel spread. And I think I told you maybe last time something. And if I did, I'm sorry to repeat myself. But to me, it's pretty significant that in 119, Pliny, governor at that point, actually contacted the emperor and complained about the fact that there was this new superstitious, that's the word, superstitious groups that are growing so fast in Asia Minor where he was, that the temples were being forsaken. That's how much it was going and growing and doing things. And, that kind of thing can take place. Now, we were talking a little bit earlier about Charlie Kirk, and I'll not go into a lot of that, but there's something significant in all of that. And I've done a piece that I'm going to be putting on my website, probably YouTube, in which I talk about people throughout the ages who have said the same thing, that you cannot ultimately defeat the church, because even with the blood of the martyrs, it just continues to grow and grow and grow, because God is working in the world to bring people to himself.
Amen.
And so, and I'm not saying any more about the Kirk issue right now, but the point of it is that's what was going on in Asia. People are willing to face death in order to present the gospel.
Yep.
And Paul, as you well know, nearly encountered that himself when he came in. And you have, just one moment, and then you have people like Polycarp and others who died for the faith that are also there in Smyrna and places that we visited. Yeah, let me get your question, Jeffrey.
Okay, great. Thank you. This thing you said, superstitious, and how did they define that back then? I mean, what grouping of people was that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I understand why you say that. By the way, some of the ideas, for example, Gnosticism, and some of these and viewpoints that came out of the various gods sometimes encountered some very high, religious views that were very ecstatic in nature and those kinds of things. You think, how do they come up with the word superstitious? I guess probably what they're saying is that it was so far out of the normal way of thinking about religion. Because remember, the Greek religions, the Asian religions, the Middle Eastern religions, all these are based on mythologies and things that were taking place that people, they believe these to some degree. They believe these things going on, but it didn't enter into time and space history.
Right.
And here you have somebody who says there's a God, who comes down and takes upon himself humanity and gives himself for the sins of the people. Can you imagine how that would go through the mind of a normal Greek? They never saw the gods acting that way. The gods were always selfish. The gods were always taking. The gods were always demanding. Right. And here you have this concept of a God who actually takes upon himself humanity and walks among humanity, and he actually gives himself for humanity.
Right.
And that wouldn't make any sense to them. Does that make sense to you?
So that's what they called superstitious, this new way of Christ?
Yes, yeah? I don't think they understood the idea. It was a viewpoint that just went outside the realm of their entire thinking process.
They were used to,
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I would understand it that way. That's what when I've read that, I've understood it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
This wasn't also the church considered when it first started to be a cult, sort of.
Well, yes, because it deviated from the gods, but it's no
Same
different.
difference. Yeah.
That's the same thing I was saying. They
Right.
couldn't understand this unique thing coming out with such weird teaching that was so contrary to everything that they've learned all their lives
Exactly.
and have been gone on for 100 years.
It was definitely strange to them. Yeah.
And remember Paul when he got to the Areopagus,
Mm-hmm.
to what people call
Mars Hill.
Mars Hill sometimes. It's actually the hill of Eris, which is the god of war. But nonetheless, when he came to Athens and he's up there and says, "What is this new thing that you're talking about?" Remember how they approached him?
Yeah.
And challenged him that he's presenting this. What's this idea about some resurrection?
Yeah.
That didn't make any sense to them.
Sure.
So it's such a new concept, they didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
But finally, we got something that's actually true versus mythology.
Sure. Right. And that was strange.
Yeah. So I hope that maybe answers it, Jeffrey. That's what I
That
understand.
is extremely helpful. I was not thinking that they were calling Christianity, but yeah, no, that's very helpful for me. Thank you.
And,
I have
and
a quick question.
in just a second. And again, you can see that in the statement I made with Paul and them when he gave them the teaching,
Right.
it blew their mind. They didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, there's a question back there with the people from Colorado.
Krista.
Yeah, no, my question is, if the resurrection was a new concept to them, the resurrection is referenced in Job. Where did they lose that concept of a resurrection in the timeline of history for them to not consider it as something that is as anything really?
Well, the resurrection as a concept, see, you have to understand the Greeks were very much into what we would think of as almost like being Gnostic, and that means different things. But it's that aspect of Gnosticism where they really dealt with ethereal things, not material things. And so they really couldn't deal with the idea of these kinds of happenings that were so outside the mythology of their whole religious practices, because they never saw the gods and God and divine actions taking place as we talk about. So I think that you have the apostle presenting ideas, and of course Paul was the ideal person to do this. Can you imagine Peter up there trying to explain this stuff?
Yeah.
I'm being real serious with you right now. God had a plan.
Sure.
And when he called Paul from Troas to go over, he had a plan.
Absolutely.
Peter,
right, because
apostles,
Paul was conversant with the material that they read. He read it as well. Peter went to the Jewish people, and if you notice, he always relied on Jewish history and literature with the Jewish people. So that's and to your question, Krista, the Jews were familiar with the idea of a resurrection. They didn't all accept it, as we can see. Even when Paul's on trial,
Right.
he appeals to the Pharisees and goes, "Look, guys, I'm on trial for something we all believe in. That's the resurrection." The Sadducees didn't believe in that.
No.
Right.
The Greeks, I don't know that they were even aware of Job, for example.
No,
Right.
they were not.
Right.
To my knowledge, the people to whom Paul spoke in, let's say, Asia Minor, as we think of Turkey today, and Greece and these places, were totally unaware of this other kind of thinking. That's true with the Romans too.
Right.
When you study Greek mythology, and I've read a lot of Greek materials, in all of mythology, it's just one big movie. It's like a fiction movie
Right.
Yeah.
all the time. I mean, they lived in mythology, and they never really expected. They'd talk about sometimes Zeus coming down and
Right.
having relations with some woman, and she bearing Hercules, and
Right.
they had these kind of things.
The demigods. Yeah.
But they really did not have a developed theology of thought about God and the world. It was very much on the surface. And that's why they, for example, when you get to Alexandria in the time of Philo, right around the turn of the 1st century AD, they were beginning to break away. That's key to understand this. The intelligentsia of Greece were beginning to break away from the mythology of the past. And they went into allegory, though.
Mm.
Of course, that's where Philo went, and that's where Origen went.
Mm.
When they dealt with a serious biblical text that actually talks about historical reality,
Mm-hmm.
they were not familiar with dealing with things with that historical concept. And so they turned it into spiritualistic and allegoristic kind of ideas. And that's what's going on at Alexandria at that time. They were taking and having a new renaissance of Greek thought from Athens all the way down now to Northern Africa. So you had to follow that idea. And I've spent time reading a lot of
Right.
Philo, although I had to read it in Greek. But nonetheless, reading Philo and Aristotle and all these people and ones that operated out of Greek like Origin and so forth, you only had one school of thought that really was different from that. That was one in Syria. And can't even think of it. Donald, you may have to help me on this. The up in the area of Syria, Antioch of Syria,
Okay.
and which you had more of a more historical school. But this, you see, the ancient world did not deal in the idea we think of as history, except for the Jews and the church.
Mm.
You see that? Now you have some deviation from the church because of some people I mentioned, but there's a movement going on in contemporary evangelicalism. I'm not going to spend any time on it today, but there's a movement going on trying to go back and say the biblical text is teaching this inerrant, wonderful truth, but it never happened.
Mm.
Because we learn truth about non-history. So God was actually not talking about history, he's talking mythologically.
Oh boy.
And so, but there's so much inerrant truth to learn from it. And then I go back to, and I'll say the end of it with this. I go back to 2 Timothy 3:16, and it does not say that all theological teaching is inerrant. It says all scripture, which is the text, graphe.
Yeah.
All scripture is breathed out by God, not all theology, which is inerrant in my understanding, is breathed out by God. It's very important. The scripture is a key to the Christian faith.
Yes.
Right.
It is.
Just have people roaming all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
developing ideas, and they're not going to be any better than was done with the Origin. And he made some big mistakes.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps a little bit.
Very much.
Okay. You ready to take the next step here?
Okay, you want to start moving and looking at some of the stuff?
Why not?
Let's do
unfamiliar biblical sites. There's a reason I said that, because everybody's heard about Laodicea, right?
Mhm.
Probably heard of Colossae.
Mm-hmm.
You know, probably heard of where else? Ephesus,
Philadelphia.
We've heard these words, but the ones I'm talking about haven't been talked about very much.
Mm.
And I'm going to move from Densley there all the way up to Hierapolis. That's where I want to talk about. I haven't got anything on Densley right now. But Hierapolis, guess what that means?
City of Hera.
City of Hera.
I mean, no, not Hera. Who's?
It's a
No.
word.
Priests or temples.
It means holy city.
Hiera instead of Hera. I was looking at 2 R's.
Yeah.
And this is a very important setting. If you'll notice where Laodicea is there, remember I showed you pictures of Laodicea. And by the way, the Turks call Hierapolis, that's Greek. The Turks call it Pamukkale.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
But Laodicea, you can see all the way across the Lycus Valley and see this. It looked like a snow-capped mountain. That's where we're going. We're going skiing here in just a little bit. Yes, if you like skiing on hot salt water.
No.
Now, so we're going to move on up. Colossi's to the right, just to make a point. By the way, I saw some recent pictures.
Oh.
And I thought about trying to put them in here, but I just couldn't think where I saw them. But I came across some recent pictures of the excavation going on at Colossae right now. And they're really beginning to uncover some things there. I used to walk, every time I went to Turkey, I would always, when I finished Laodicea, I would go over to Colossae and look around and walk around the top and so forth. And you could see sort of indication of a civilization there. But now they're uncovering it all. Anyway, let's move to Hierapolis.
Oh, move on, he said? Well, this is, what if we move on to Colossae instead?
Yeah, Well, we can go to Colossae. That's fine.
Okay, good.
In Colossae, anybody know about the book of Colossians?
I've
Sure.
heard of it once or twice.
For sure.
Yeah. It's
Heard
in your
about
Bible. It's the New Testament. And
Yep.
it had an interesting problem that was developing there. And I'm wondering how
Mm.
many of our people know the theological deviation that was beginning to take place at Colossae.
Oh, when we pray, we heard from the Lord, just being fruit. Trying to remember. Spiritual.
Well, Paul actually had interest in what was going on at that church.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about the fact that they had principalities and powers
Yeah.
and so forth that were sort of into their religion at that point.
Yes.
And are there principalities and powers and rulers in darkness and those things actually occurring?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Seems to be.
But what would that refer to as the Colossians are hearing it?
Mm.
You get an A plus if you answer this. Okay, that's enough. I've written 4 articles on the book of Colossians. If you'd like to read them sometime, I've actually put them up on my website at hwhouse.com now, where you can view videos and photos and all sorts of articles that I have and all sorts of other kinds of stuff we're putting up. So you may want to check those out at hwhouse.com. But let me just tell you, the Church of Colossae was influenced by an incipient form. I say incipient because the idea of Gnosticism, that term, did not become fully blown until the beginning of the 2nd century.
Mm.
But there are aspects of the later development of Gnosticism. By the way, I'm buying into the viewpoints there of Edwin Yamauchi. If you know that name, very fine biblical scholar. He argues this too. He wrote a book called Pre-Christian Gnosticism that you might buy if you want to read this area. But in Colossae, they believed in these, what shall I call them, spirits that were involved in the world. They had different ways to look at. Some were more powerful than others. Some did different tasks than others. But they were all spirit beings, but it has nothing to do whatsoever with the biblical teaching on angels, for example. But they did believe that that matter and spirit could not work together. They were not together. So that they had questions about the integrity of the physical nature of human beings sometimes. And when it got to creation, it became a big issue because they did not think the true God who created the universe would ever been able to have contact with the physical universe.
So were they kind of like Docetists?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another form. But you have the idea that this God of the universe, he's untouchable by anything that's not purely spirit. And the physical world doesn't make sense to them. Now, do you see that might pose a problem with Christian thought?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, good.
I got an A minus.
What problem would come about by believing in such a view?
What problem you said?
Well, let's just start with the hard part. God's up here, and he
Yeah.
can't have anything to do with the physical world. Pure spirit. What does that say as you start the beginning of the Bible even?
Yeah. Well, definitely conflates with God's humanity later as he becomes Jesus. But in the beginning, he creates man.
Okay. In the beginning, God created the spirits of the universe. Right? That's what you read?
No.
In beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep.
Right.
And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. You know, we can go through the biblical text and see God's very involvement with the world. He's not standoffish, he's intricately connected. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
See, God is, and by the way, the Greek philosophers even understood this. Nothing never creates anything.
Right.
Right.
Right. Nothing comes from
See,
some.
nothing can't create. Nothing doesn't exist.
Right.
That's what we call it, nothing. And so you have God, though, who is something, if I can use that term.
That's right.
You have a being who is not nothing, but he is the omnipotent, all powerful, all present, and eternal being who creates something.
The uncaused cause.
Yes, and right. And the first cause, in Aristotle, but you're right there. And so
Right.
the fact is, that's a biblical view. Can you see how that would come diametrically opposed to Gnostic thinking?
Very much.
See, it's another world.
So is this what Paul is talking about in the second chapter of Colossians when he says, see to it that no one takes you captive by philosophy and empty deceit,
Correct.
according to human tradition, according to the elemental spirits or principles of the world, and not according to Christ. And then he goes into the whole,
The nature of.
yeah.
Very, very good statement. That's true. That's the whole point. And so here it is. Let me get down now. I could draw it out for you if there had a board here and we could do it that way. But the point of it is, seriously, you have God who can't
That's a good
touch,
idea.
he can't touch anything non-spirit.
Mm.
And so what he does, he creates a being a little less than he is, who then creates a being who's a little less than he is. And they're getting closer and closer and closer to a physical world. As spirits, they're losing it as they go through and getting less and less.
Transition, yeah.
So finally, there is a demiurge, a special spirit being who actually is so close to physicality that he actually is the one who does the creation.
Oh, boy.
Now,
Okay.
they wanted to separate the idea of the physical flesh from the spirit as well. So they had all sorts of issues in their package of ideas that were not very workable in a biblical worldview. Can you see when it says that when you have Jesus made flesh, how that would ring in the ears
Oh, boy. Yeah.
of people who denied the connection of spirit and the physical world?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And so that's what was going on at Colossae. Now, it wasn't fully developed. You see fully developed Gnosticism going on in the first portion of the second century. But all this time is developing its ideology over the period from the time we have at Colossae all the way to the time of the beginning where we talk about true Gnostics. But they had the initial concepts that worked into the more final development.
That was the root.
Yeah. So that's what's going on at Colossae. So when you read about like Don just gave us the elemental spirits and so forth, yeah, they believed very much that there were spirit beings, and they were basically not particularly interested in the physical world. See, so anyway, that's Colossae. There's a picture, by the way, that it's spelled correctly, and there's a mountain in the back of you now. So this is sort of, they say, in the Lycus Valley, but it's really a little bit up, sort of like Laodicea is, and there's a large gap between this area, if you were there physically. And I wish some of you would have come with me on this Turkey trip, but we have another one going probably in April. But we're going to be leaving on the 17th of October to fly nonstop from Houston to Istanbul. And I'm going to be taking the people not only to the museums at Istanbul and the churches and so forth, but we're actually going to take off in a bus and go down by ancient Troy and see the Trojan. There's no Trojan horse there anymore. Not the real one, at least. They got a fake.
A replica, yeah.
It's a fake horse. I promise you. I've been up and looked in.
A fake horse.
But you can see the walls and walk in the area and see the various places of theaters and so forth. And on the way down to southern Turkey. But that tour will be 17 through 30, I think we're going to have, or 27. And then we'll have one late April, and then doing Israel in sometime later May. Well, let's move that and move forward. I've got all the commercials I can afford to put in. You see what
Yeah.
they charged me for this?
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Information on the biblical side. It was under 12 miles from Laodicea in the Lycus Valley. And I say the Lycus Valley is probably, I guess they call it that way, but it's not truly in an area that's lower. It's more the hills that surround that area. But throughout its history, it was known for its colossus. I don't know what that means.
Colossus?
Colossiness. I've never had any. Never
Me
one,
neither.
to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Which has a distinct. I just got this out of an archaeology bit. What can I say? The material trade apparently attracted Jews to the city as well. Now, why would Jews be interested in material apparel?
Well, it's wool and it's distinctive red.
Okay.
So I'm not sure.
Yeah, the Jews very much were into this kind of business. That's part of what they did. It was founded by Epaphras, who was from the city, and Timothy. That's what you get in Colossians 1, 7, and 8. Now, if you read in Colossians, you'll find that Paul actually had several people that we know by name that were connected to the city. And so, you have Onesimus, you have Timothy was in that area. You had Epaphras and others. I believe this, and maybe Donald, who's more of a scholar than I am, can tell me, was this a city also that I think the Onesimus of Paul and the remember of him being in prison and coming out and being accepted by the man Philemon, I believe, right? Was it I think it was at Colossae, is that correct?
Might have been. I don't remember.
Okay. Anyway, it says a home of Philemon, the recipient of a letter from Paul. I put this down in hopes that I was right. And his runaway slave, Onesimus. There you have it. See?
There it is, yeah.
Now, see, it could be wrong. It's in print. So Christianity thrived in the successive centuries in this church. By the way, remember, it had this really downside that through the teaching and the work of Paul and his disciples, they were able to turn this church away from some of the ways in which it was moving. And I think that's really true. Paul went there. I think it had real problems, and he taught there, and I believe it began to have corrections.
Good.
I don't know about you, but the modern church really doesn't like doctrine much.
Really? What makes you say that?
You notice that? Well, I just, that's not my church, not where I go.
Right.
But the modern church is not real crazy about doctrine. They've got all these deviations from what we've thought in the past. And I've got a talk that I'm doing. For example, a church is coming Sunday. The pastor and his wife have gone off for a couple of weeks up in the area of the Upper South. And he asked me to speak out of 1 Timothy chapter 5. And what you'll find, sound doctrine is what brings stability to the people of God.
Yep.
It's not some great song you're singing. Everybody's happy and clapping their hands. That's not going to do it. It's not from some of the things that people bring into the church. It comes by believing true statements about what God teaches.
Amen.
And solid. That's why I say solid. A solid church is built on solid doctrine.
Yes.
Now, don't get me wrong. There are churches in the past, and I won't mention the name. That it's in Houston.
Yeah.
That they had a guy that all he talked about was doctrine, and if you even look differently than you should on a Sunday morning, he'd probably ask you to leave the church. And I know some stories that I will not go into, but the point of it is, I know people that belonged to this church years ago, and he was into doctrine to the point he even had his own doctrine dictionary. I had a copy of it.
Whoa.
Where you could understand what he meant by what he said because you never knew the terminology. And so people would listen to his doctrine in their homes if they were not close to the church, and they listened to it on a tape player. And they absorbed the doctrine. And see, doctrine is good, but it can't be totally separated from other elements that are also important, like giving and loving and caring and ministering and those kinds of things, which is also the life of the church.
Right.
And I talk about that in 1 Corinthians chapter 6 on the next week.
There you go.
Sound doctrine and really getting involved in the lives of other Christians and separate.
Yes.
So both elements are important to the life of the church.
Mm.
But if Paul had not got this church straightened up in doctrine, who knows where they would have ended up.
So Paul definitely went to Colossae, and because I got this Bible charts and maps, the Rose book, and I just thought I'd pull it out to see this geography. And I was looking at his travels, so he went there to that Colossae.
I can't say for sure. I don't know that he went there. I know that he had connections there with his teaching.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
So I was looking myself at that. Thank you, Jeffrey, for bringing that out. He was ministering close by there, but I'm not sure if he ever actually spent time in the church group. But he did write a very potent, very strong letter to correct the errors that were there. And of course, you do have Timothy was there connected there.
Yep.
And you also had the other people I mentioned. So Paul had connections there that ministered as well. But they did correct in that church, apparently, some of these deviations from Christian thought.
His journey to Rome, he went like really close to it. But right. So
I think there are several cities close by there, yes.
Yep.
So I don't think he did. I mentioned some more about Colossae. Due to raids from foreigners in the 700s, the city was abandoned when its residents moved to nearby Konai. And so they had a better defense, probably a higher mound and wall. Has not yet been excavated when I wrote this, but now it's being excavated, and I saw some of the excavation just the other day, and I'm trying to think, where did I see that? But there's an article somewhere on the internet that I came across and read on it. So if anybody sees that, be sure and let me know too.
Okay.
But I will know it by person because I'm going over there with my
That's
church
even better.
and looking at it. And I don't know if they'll try to bar us from coming in or what. When I was in Smyrna, I made friends with the from the archaeologist and in charge of it, and so we could do what we wanted. So if you can make friendships, it always pays off.
There you go.
Anyway, it's near Laodicea and Hierapolis, and I've already mentioned both of those to you. Though the latter is on the other side of the Lycus Valley, which is what? Hierapolis, and remember I said it looks like a snow-capped mountain? Right. We're going to get to that. It's a great place. I love going there. Now, so it's near Laodicea, which is close to Colossae. Now, let me mention something about this. There's a debate on this question right now, so let me tell you the two views. You have a statement in the city of Laodicea when he says, "You're lukewarm, you're not hot or cold, and because of that, I'll spew you out of my mouth, since you're lukewarm." And the viewpoint that was held for many, many years, and I don't know but that is still correct, but I've got to do some more research on it before I make a final decision. But for years, it was argued that the hot water from hot water from Hierapolis, look at it, actually came to Laodicea. Okay. And that the cold water from Colossae, very cold, and I told you I drove my car around there.
Yeah, that little river.
Found the place. I always like my people on tours. I always take them and try to show them everything I can to open the text up.
There you go.
That's my job. And I love doing it. So I'll take people and show them, here's the running water. Put your finger in it. Feel the cold. It's still cold. And even the streams are out there in front of the tail that you see coming out. It's just on top of the ground. It's still flowing out cold.
Wow.
So people used to say, well, that's cold. And Hierapolis is hot. And I guarantee it's not scalding hot, but I always bring my bathing suit to get into it. Because it's a sauna, man. You get in there and just relax a little bit.
Nice.
And it's good on you. And we take time on the tour to do that, because you don't have too many opportunities. But the point of it is, I can understand why they say, well, let's see, when hot and cold gets together, it makes it lukewarm. That's the view for a long time. A new view being argued, and I've got to try to make my decision on what I think. But it's argued that neither neither Hierapolis or Colossae actually had a some kind of channel that
System.
went into Laodicea. They said Laodicea had its own faulty, salt-driven kind of yucky water.
Oh,
You know, I think the technical term is yucky.
yeah.
And so they drank this terrible stuff that was to drink. And that's the lukewarmness. It's actually inherently in where Laodicea is.
So it's their own origin, basically.
It's its own source.
Yeah.
Now, if that's true, it doesn't change my view
Obviously.
of the fact of what lukewarm means.
Sure.
It says you're neither hot nor cold. That's still true.
Sure.
But you're lukewarm, which is not very good. And you're very good, just like your water. That's true. That's why.
Right. Sure. Makes sense.
Just like your water, you're lukewarm, and so are you.
That would be the
So
insinuation.
the way I go, I don't lose my story.
There you go.
Whether it joins or whether it doesn't join.
Right.
Because Laodicea's problem, remember, they were wealthy. Remember the gold that they received and all the cloth that they made. And by the way, which is still a center for that. If you go to Turkey right now, near that is in fact a place that you can buy cloth stuff you want. But anyway, so you have all these things that you say makes you important and great and marvelous, but now you're just a bunch of lukewarm people with dirty water. And so that's what we got.
Interesting.
That's Laodicea. But we have Colossae, which has this wonderful stream, and I'm eager to see more of what they're doing. I can't talk a lot about it until I actually spend some time on the archaeology of it. And I just haven't had time to do that yet. But I found my first article the other day, a real good one on the internet. I got to go look for it again. Now, let's Colossae from the south. Let's keep moving. There's a tail. I walked around the top of that more than one time. And I thought there's something under here I can sense that is a stone. And I think there's a wall there historically.
Even the grass kind of looks like a rose. You can
Yeah.
see that little bit striations. Yeah.
Tell Colossae. Can't tell it much. I'll keep going. See, there's the water that I'm talking about on top of the ground.
Wow.
Yeah, there's so much of it. Cold. You know where that water is coming from?
The mountains?
If you look around Colossae, you will see mountains.
Yeah, that would be it.
Oftentimes, mountains bring water to people and places.
Yes.
When I get to the point in our study down the way, I'll take you to a place called Tel Dan. Now, Tel Dan is a place where Dan, the tribe of Dan, left the area of the Philistines and so forth. And they, by the way, who were not Palestinians, they were Greeks. They were not Arabs. But anyway, they left the lower area where Samson didn't do a real good job of getting rid of the problem. And they moved very north, the most north section in their Samaria that they could, to be in Israel. And they built a city and a temple, an alternate temple. That's interesting. And they have a place, Laish, which is an old gate, probably the time of Abraham.
Wow.
And when you come here, also, though, they have a stream that comes from the mountains in the distance that rushes through that's so cold. And we always take our jugs and fill it up with water there, because the water there coming from that rushing through in the mountains actually is better than you can buy in the stores.
I'll believe it.
Yeah, it is. And so you filled it up. That's every time I come, we have a place there we sit and talk, we go through the whole thing, and then we get our water filled up. Well, anyway, the point of it is, so where do you think then, and you've already said it, then the water would come from? Water usually flows out of the mountains where there's cold, moving down to where the people
lower. Yeah.
Yeah. So
cool.
Anyway, let's keep moving. And our time is moving on. You guys just keep me so involved I can't get through it. But we'll only have 15 more minutes. Creeks near Colossae. There's an example of one.
That looks nice.
Let's keep moving a little bit. I want to cover more.
All right, we have a comment here also.
Okay.
The Colossae excavation is run by Dr. Barris Yenner.
Oh, Pamukkale University.
Yeah.
Okay, I will look that up when I get there.
Mid
Thank you very
2025. So yeah,
Thank you for checking that out and letting me know.
awesome.
That
We'll
was your
take
that
advantage-
was your caffeinated Colorado crew checking in.
I will,
Yes.
just a second, I will actually go through and find more information on that based on what you gave me. And we will try to talk more about that last time. What did you say now?
I said that was from the Colorado caffeinated crew.
Yes, that's why I said I appreciate very much you finding that. And so
Mhm.
I'll read on it and I'll come back and talk more about it when I get to that point. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you. Boy, when you help me that way, that's so important. Now, heresy at Colossae, I've tried to sort of demonstrate what we're talking about.
Hmm.
Various groups dominated the theological landscape of Colossae. Orthodox Christianity, guess who pushed that? That was Timothy and Paul. Then you had Judaism, salvation through keeping the law. That was still the view of a lot of Jews.
Sure.
Neither, let's say, people like these mystery cults
Hmm.
or the Jews were both in the wrong. What
Hmm.
God taught was in the middle of those two ideas,
Hmm.
which is oftentimes the case. So, keeping the law, mystery cults, salvation through special knowledge.
Oh boy, yeah.
They felt they possessed knowledge that nobody else did. They did not have a Bible,
Mhm.
but they did have part of the mysteries of the ancient Greek world they maintained. Notice it was an amalgam of doctrines that did not reject Christ openly, but displaced his preeminence and distorted salvation, and thus my question.
Sure.
My question is, do we do some of the same thing
Yes.
if we're not?
History repeats itself. Yes, many
Yeah.
times.
You've got churches, and I won't mention names on the air,
Mm,
but they still have a semblance of Christianity, but they've
yeah.
abandoned so many things that we have been taught over the years and that are found in Scripture.
Hmm.
There are churches where they even make fun of or do not use or reject the Old Testament altogether.
Hmm.
You ever heard of a guy by the name of Walt Kaiser?
Oh yeah.
Walt Kaiser is a little over 90 years old now. I have a publishing company, a small one, and I do that for published friends, basically. I don't really make any money on it. But Walt, he did 4 books with me, but one book he did last year was this. It says, The Old Testament Really Matters. And then I read that and I thought, that's great. But I put a subtitle to it, and I got permission from him.
Mm.
Encouraging Christians to read the Bible of Jesus and the early church.
There you go.
The early church and Jesus read the Old Testament, and they propagated the teaching of the New Testament, but they didn't reject the Old Testament to do so.
So
Right.
they didn't unhitch from it. I'm sorry.
No,
Did I
they
say that out loud?
kept the whole Bible. But yet you have churches that denigrate and make fun of or do not use
Yeah.
the Old Testament, not to mention the fact they have given themselves over to a cancel culture idea
Yeah.
that we have in our society today.
Yep.
Okay,
By the
continue.
way, you mentioned Tell Dan, and I meant to ask you, but Jeff sent me a little message here that said Tell is a Hebrew word meaning an artificial mount or hill formed by successive layers of ruins and human occupation over centuries. So you understood what a tell is, other people may not.
Well, that's true. And I thought I had said something about that at the beginning, but maybe I didn't. And if I didn't, one of my sessions will be an introduction to archaeology more than I've done. No, I'm serious with you. I'm serious because we're going to continue to go through things.
Sure.
And if I need to go back and educate you just a little bit and
Absolutely.
tell you about tales
Hmm.
and tell you about the various kinds of practices that were used in the ancient world and how to
Sure.
understand what archaeology does and how it does its divisions. I even got a great picture of me at a place called Tal because in Jordan's the only place in the world that does archaeology and they do not have tails. Everybody says tail. Jordan says Tal, Tall.
Oh.
So we have to say Tal El
Tall
Hammam.
tell.
El Hammam.
Tall
That's
Hammam.
where I've been 6 or 7 seasons going there during parts of the seasons to Tal Hammam, where I think is probably the legitimate site of Sodom and where you have Sodom and Gomorrah,
Oh yeah.
one of the cities around. But I'll
Oh,
talk
that's
about
cool.
that later because I'm going to actually show you a lot of stuff about Tal Hammam and what's going on. But that's in the future.
Ooh.
Thank you for bringing that up, though. I appreciate it very much. So, but continuing on, Greek philosophy. Notice they had angel worship. Now,
Oh yeah.
let me suggest something. Did you ever heard of a guy by the name of Socrates?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, who was Socrates?
He was a soccer
The
player.
philosopher.
No. Yeah. Yes.
I'm letting people participate. Who was
Proactive.
Socrates? He was a
Philosophia.
Philosopher.
philosopher. Thank you. Philosopher who lived in the area of,
I think he was.
he was in Athens.
Yeah.
And so you had people that were attracted to him, like Plato and Plato's Aristotle. Socrates
yeah.
is early for Aristotle, but the fact is, Plato and other people that did this. I had an undergraduate degree in classical and Hellenistic Greek. We had to read all these guys in Greek, believe it or not.
Yeesh.
And classical Greek's harder than
Yeah.
Hellenistic. But anyway, we read a lot of Socrates. He didn't write anything, but people he did, and his stories and so forth. But see, Socrates had a spirit that told him things and explained things to him. Do you know that?
Uh-oh.
He had a spirit. I'm trying to think of a word. There's another term goes
Was it a
with
spirit guide?
that. Yes, thank you so much, James.
No. Sounds
A
familiar. That's
spirit
right.
guide. And guess what happened in New Ageism in America?
Spirit guides are
Had
abounding.
spirit guides leading them around. You know who those spirit guides were?
Yeah. No
They
bueno.
were angelic beings.
Yeah.
They worshipped angels at Colossae. They worshipped angelic beings.
Yes.
Spirits, like spirit guides like Socrates had. And these spirit beings are not from God.
Nope.
They are some of the leftovers
The leftovers.
who actually fail. You know,
The rebellious tribe.
that's
Yes.
true. That's true. See, and so that's an important thing to recognize that even as far back as the Greek civilization here, way before our New Ageism hit America,
Yeah.
they were following spirits, angels, getting guidance.
Yeah.
And Paul has some negative things to say about that.
Yeah, I bet.
You can read that in Colossians. I'll move on. I want to see what I say next year.
Yeah.
Can you give me that? And then you had this angel worship, asceticism, libertarianism,
Oof.
and but you find all of these teachings more fully developed in the 2nd century, about 20 years after the time of John.
Hmm.
So, but you have it developing at this time.
Sure.
So let's. It's 8:53. I got time a little bit more.
Yeah.
Here it gives you and I'm going to pass this one pretty quick, but just look at it. Remember, I told you before, you had this God outside,
Oh yeah.
and then the one God created another God, who created another God, who created another God, till finally they got down to what was called the demiurge, who in fact created the material universe, and particularly the earth here. And so these are the archons that are talked about, the rulers and the principalities. These things that are talked about in Colossians were part of ancient Gnosticism. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. I can figure a couple more things. So here's a passage that you can read. I'm not going to read it all, but see, he is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For by him all things were created in heavens and on earth, visible things, invisible things, thrones, dominions, and so forth. The point of it is, Paul is talking about Jesus, but he's positioning Jesus in their theology
Right.
differently than the concepts that they had been developing.
Mm.
Can you see that? He's trying
Yeah.
to replace the false teaching with the truth.
Yeah.
And by the way, I wrote a book years ago called The Jesus Who Never Lived. And people look at what? I read the subtitle. It says Exposing False Christ and Finding the Real Jesus.
There you go.
And what I'm saying by that, sometimes you have to come in and help people to recognize that the one that they've been following under certain standards is not the one who actually ever existed. And
Right.
that is a problem.
Yep.
Let's move on just a little bit more.
Just a little bit more, eh?
Yeah.
Oh.
What is it? It looks like Colorado. Okay. Now, corrected by Paul in Colossians, and you can see this if you want to see this later. How I put Christ in redemption and Christ in creation. And I try to lay it out. You can see this thought that Paul developed actually has a poetical kind of form to it
Mm.
as the things relate to each other.
Mhm.
And you can see that between 15 and 18 and 16 and 20. And what's the pivotal concept? It usually comes in the middle. He is before all things,
Mm-hmm.
and in him all things consist, and he is the head of the body, the church. So that
Mhm.
becomes a focus point to the whole teaching that Paul gave in Colossians.
Yeah.
Well,
But
Very cool.
anyway. Well, listen, I know we've sort of come to the end of our day. Is there anything else I have following here on Colossians?
What do you got? What do you got?
I'm sorry, what?
Anything else following Colossians? I don't have a thing to look at right now.
Well, no. Hierapolis is next.
Yeah, so we'll hold that to next time. Let me give you a link stuff into it. So we've got a minute or so.
Mm-hmm.
Hierapolis, remember, I said they have the largest graveyard I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, wow.
And there's massive gravestones and things like that.
Hmm.
We'll see more about that because that became a place to which people were drawn.
Really?
Can you imagine why they were drawn to that place?
No, not.
Looking for spirit guides?
Yeah, that could be one.
Don, you can go home. You can go home. You're not adding to the conversation.
Is it?
It's their holy place, wouldn't it be?
What?
It would be their holy place. It's a
Well, yeah, it became later for Christians that way. And guess who the guy who was in charge of the Christian congregation at Hierapolis? His name was Papias.
Oh,
interesting.
Okay.
Okay. And did I get that right? Yeah, Papias, yeah. And he was a disciple of someone who was a disciple whose name was Polycarp, who was a disciple of John.
Mm-hmm.
right.
John had a lot of influence long after he died. Okay. And one of the places he had influence was Hierapolis. Plus another thing they had that was really cool. No, actually it was very hot.
Yeah, they had warm water.
They had very nice warm water that's steaming from the earth, not steaming to the point it boils you. I mean, it's
Right.
not dangerous.
Right.
It's very nice hot water, and you look and people walking this on their feet and walking around, but you have places there you just sit down and relax and have the water to refresh you. Can
Mm.
you imagine why people, particularly older people like some of you, but of course not me,
No.
but if I were older, I'd
Right.
want to be some at Hierapolis and enjoy the hot water, wouldn't you?
Sure. Absolutely.
So they had several things there, but they had something else we're going to talk about next time.
Mm.
And you can just think about this. I'm going to show you the place that you enter into to go to Hades.
Ooh. Interesting.
They have one of the 2 or 3 sites in the entire Greek world where you had an entrance into the place of the dead.
Hmm.
And they had priests that worked there. This is before Christianity gained control,
Sure.
Right.
by growth and so forth. And this is also where Philip and his daughter were executed. The apostle, not the evangelist. The
Right.
apostle Philip was executed, and his daughter was the same day in this place. But that's when it was controlled by the pagans, not when Christians gradually won. Remember, I've talked to you before. Christianity, it is a religion which we give even our lives,
Mm-hmm.
even our lives.
Yeah.
The whole Charlie Kirk thing and some of those things you heard a lot about. The fact is, there's some things more important, and you speak the truth in spite of
In
others.
spite of it. Yeah.
Speak the truth in spite of danger.
Mm.
Stay true to the truth, because our abode is forever, and not this limited time that some people are dealing with. So the fact is, Philip and his daughter died there.
Mm.
Eventually it became a Christian site. They did away with the hell place, I think, after a while, but that was early in its history.
Interesting.
And then Hierapolis becomes a major site in the ancient world and one of the favorite places for me in my tours to go.
Wow.
So anyway,
Very interesting.
it's going to be really interesting next week with, say it with me, Hierapolis.
Hierapolis.
Great. You guys are ready to go. I'll sign
Hierapolis.
you up for the tour in April.
Like this guy.
Oh, April is the next one.
All right. So for those who are tuned in, we
Yeah,
will
any
see
other
you.
question?
I have a quick question. So you mentioned angel worship. Just really quick, how do they classify angels? Would they just be considered gods with wings?
Well, no. That's you do have certain things that were done in ancient mythology that where people had wings.
Mhm.
Right.
It has nothing to do with this. They were viewed as spirits,
Okay.
not
so
what we think of as angels.
classifying-
Who come, yeah, they were spirit beings,
Mhm.
and that's exactly what angels are. They were spirit beings.
Right.
Sure.
And we've got the angel with the wings because we think, how do they fly around? Oh, they have wings like birds do. They don't need the wings to get around.
Sure.
Right. Okay.
So, but that's a development that takes place, over time. Good question. Thank you.
So
Or
would
dramatic.
Athena be considered an angel then?
Would who?
Athena?
Athena would be considered a goddess.
Okay.
And
So
by
what
the way,
would be the difference between that and a spirit?
the goddesses were physical.
Um,
Remember the goddess? She had the many breasts. Remember, to feed the multiple. She had the deer and all the stuff to shoot arrows, and the gods were all physical in nature. The spirits are a unique perspective that is different from the basic historic Greco-Roman mythology. It's another ball game altogether that began to develop
Sure.
over time. It came out of, actually, I can't take time to do it. I did a whole paper on this, but the point is all this spiritism actually came out of places to the east of the Greco-Roman Empire and worked its way into it.
No surprise there.
Yeah, and it came out of Eastern mythology
Yeah.
that was not Greco-Roman. Greek.
Right.
All right. We're
Makes
going
sense.
to end the stream for those who are out there tuned in.
Thank you.
Adios.
Thank you very much.